Hi there, welcome to Deep Dive Movie Reviews with my friend Steve Hackman and myself, James Marsh. On this week's show, we are talking about Kenneth Branagh's semi-autobiographical drama, Belfast.
Hey, before we talk about Belfast, though, first of all, thanks to all of our new subscribers. It's been so exciting to see it kind of burst the last couple of weeks. As people have been finding out about the podcast, been finding out about the YouTube channel, it's been great seeing the growing community of listeners. Hey, remember too, we love your comments. So please remember, if you like Belfast, if you have a comment about it, you have a perspective, please drop it in the comment box below. And without further ado, James, tell me a little bit about Kenneth Branagh's new movie, Belfast.
Okay, so Belfast is, like I said, semi-autobiographical, set in Belfast in Northern Ireland in the 1960s, where Kenneth Branagh grew up. And much like him and his family, it is about the family making the difficult decision about whether to stay there as the troubles rise up to dangerous, violent levels as they erupt onto the streets, or whether to leave the country and try and make a new life somewhere else. It's shot in beautiful black and white, and there are some great performances from you've got Caitriona Balfe, Jamie Dornan as the parents. They're just referred to as Ma and Pa. And then you've got a brilliant child performance by Jude Hill as Buddy, who is sort of the surrogate for Kenneth Branagh in this story. And then Ciaran Hinds and Judi Dench as the grandparents. So, Steve, let's start with you this time. What were your thoughts about this one?
I want you to start this time because I have such strong thoughts about this, okay, James. And I'm often the one going first. I know exactly what I'm going to say. Go for it. Start us off.
All right. Okay. Well, let's see if it's somewhere along the lines of this. Okay. So, I'm English, grew up in England. So obviously vaguely familiar with the troubles going on in Northern Ireland. And particularly not during the 1960s, but, it was always a thing in the 70s, in the 80s, into the 90s. So I was kind of aware of the political situation and the divides between Protestants and Catholics and the issues therein, and have seen a number of sort of films and TV dramas and documentaries or whatever all about this kind of issue. I think what works is the portrait of family life here. The perspective of 9-year-old Buddy, who sort of has a vague inkling that something is going on, but certainly couldn't obviously explain it. Doesn't know how it's going to impact him, how it's going to impact his family. He's far more interested with the pretty new girl at school, and how he's going to sit next to her, how he's going to talk to her, how he's going to tell her how he feels. He's got a project to do about the moon landings, and talking to his grandma and granddad about how to talk to girls. Essentially, he's far more interested in all that kind of thing than he is with the money troubles and obviously the troubles themselves that are really starting to sort of simmer to a violent crescendo on the streets of Belfast. And I think he captures all of that really, really well. In terms of the troubles themselves and how they were portrayed, I kind of get the fact that he's kind of drawing from memory, and he's probably portraying them as he remembers them.
Sure.
But for a film that essentially is about that, I felt it was a little bit sort of too understated almost for me. I've seen obviously other films like In the Name of the Father and Hunger and all kinds of other films about this kind of thing, and you're used to sort of seeing it sort of explode violently and being some real sort of serious repercussions from all of it. And so to see it essentially from the perspective of the front rooms of the ordinary families, down on the terrace streets just round the corner from where it's all kicking off, was kind of it was kind of simultaneously fascinating and ever so slightly underwhelming.
Yeah.
I think it is a beautifully shot film. I think the performances are great. Caitriona Balfe is brilliant as the mother. I think Jamie Dornan is great as the dad. I know that Ciaran Hinds and Judi Dench have been sort of getting a fair number of plaudits, but I think actually it's the two who play the parents who are the best. Jamie Dornan in particular, I think he's really sort of coming into his own. He kind of became famous on TV in shows like The Fall, and then very quickly was like, oh, you're the 50 Shades of Grey guy. you're rubbish. But I think he's done a great job of proving his versatility beyond that. And you know what? I would love to see him play James Bond.
Oh, interesting.
This is something that really sort of has come to me over the last sort of year. I'm a huge James Bond fan,
yes,
and been wrestling with who's it gonna, who could it be, and it's assuming they go with straight white man again.
Right. Yeah,
I think he would be a great choice. I think he looks right. He's the right age. He's about 35, something like that. So they could get a good decade out. I don't want to derail this review completely, but
new viewers to Deep Dive Movie Reviews have to marvel at James's ability to take any movie that we're on and somehow link it to James Bond in some way. In fact, I'm always amazed by his ability to kind of restrain himself.
Yeah, it's a point of pride. It's like, how can I connect anything to the James Bond franchise? And suffice to say, I can almost always make it happen. I mean, Judi Dench is in this movie, for goodness sake. This isn't all that hard to do. But so for me, I mean, I think it's a really good movie. It's a really well made, beautifully shot, well acted movie that got sort of instant awards buzz around it. I think it premiered at Telluride or something, and then at London. And immediately everyone was going, oh, this is one of the movies of the year. This is a strong contender for Best Picture. Really, 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 really sort of super, super early on. And so a really strong contender for the Oscars and what have you, and continues to be so. I mean, it's right up there alongside Power of the Dog and what have you, as one of the real Best Picture possibilities.
Right.
And so I think, and I hate to be sort of a victim of hype, even this sort of early on, but I did see it pretty early in award season. And even then I was kind of like, it's great, but really? Are people flipping over it that much? Because I felt it is understated. And maybe that's just my cold, callous heart, is that I can't see enough value in just an innately sort of human story about children and parents and what have you. But I did inevitably come away from it ever so slightly going, is that all there is?
Well, let this warm American warm that cold British heart. And
sentimental American.
I'm going to tip my hand a little early in this review, James, and say this is possibly my favorite movie of the year. And I would at this point, I reserve the right to change my mind later. But at this point, I would have this as the best picture for the Academy Awards this year. And to me, it's the kind of movie that the critics tend to like, because Best Picture Academy winners, the critics are the voters, I shouldn't say the critics, the voters really like anyone either who can portray a real life character like Ray, who played Ray,
Jamie Foxx
playing Ray, or Rami Malek playing Freddie Mercury. They love that kind of thing. The other thing that they really like is a feel-good historical drama that has a life-affirming aspect to it. And that's what this movie did for me. I thought, well, first of all, I gotta also give my baggage in that I'm a huge Kenneth Branagh fan. I mean, going all the way back to when he was with Emma Thompson in the miniseries Fortunes of War, Dead Again, Henry V, Much Ado About Nothing. When they divorced, I was depressed for a week because I thought, oh no, those movies are not going to come anymore. And like you said, this is semi-autobiographical. I have seen some interviews with Kenneth Branagh on this. And, when he talks about at the beginning of the film, when the young boy is playing in the streets and it's all innocent and there's this community, which is an aspect of this film I loved. I just loved this Irish community that everyone knows one another. If you're not related, you at least are close enough that everybody's watching each other's kids, and to watch a community unravel like that, it's something that's very powerful and depressing to see. But coming back to the Kenneth Branagh interview, he said he remembers being 9 years old and playing and thinking he was hearing bees. And he kept thinking, where's that swarm of bees? But it turned out at the end of the street, all these thugs and these hoodlums started coming and smashing up his Catholic neighbors' houses. That's one of his memories as a 9-year-old boy. And that's obviously how this movie starts out. This is Kenneth Branagh's movie fueling the beginning of this film. To me, just the interaction of the family, everything you said, the casting is just spot on. It's wonderful. And I know every time Judi Dench is in a movie and people say, I love Judi Dench, everybody loves Judi Dench. And yet she constantly amazes me how she is able to still bring joy to my face. She says lines in this film that had me just joyful. When the young boy is doing the project on the moon landing, and she's the grandpa, Ciaran Hinds, when they're sitting and he's kind of encouraging the young boy about the moon landing and kind of bringing the scientific or the more natural aspect. And Judi Dench she's got the old superstition, like people shouldn't be going there. And then when he mentions the dark side of the moon, she goes, the dark side of the moon. That's where Lucifer hangs his shillelagh.
Surely you would have seen the sheep of Columbus against the light of the moon.
No, that's because mostly he was on the dark side.
Exactly, it's the side that Lucifer hangs his shillelagh.
No, he was on the...
And it's lines like that just had me thinking, I love this movie. But it's not even just the comedy aspects. Later, when Judi Dench says, they're musing about Belfast and what they see descending, they see what's coming. They see that this is not something that's going to leave in a year or 5 years. This is going to radically upend the society that they know. And when she says, there's no road to Shangri-La from Belfast, it was just a powerful moment of, there's no hope coming, and you all better, get out while you can. So I hear what you're saying about it being understated, but I don't think the Troubles were the main focus of this movie. The Troubles was obviously the backdrop for how this family dynamic is going to navigate the minefield that there is going to be thrust on them in the next coming weeks and months, because they're not only dealing with the Troubles, we also see they're having some marital issues, which are stemming from financial issues. And in the midst of that, you can see this incredible love and this incredible togetherness. Yeah, I love this film.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm never going to sort of try and dissuade anybody from liking something that they don't like. If someone doesn't like something, I might try and sort of turn their opinion around a little bit on something. But if someone's like, oh, I love this movie, I'm not going to sort of pick holes in it. And I think it's great because, my point about this, my opinion on the film is that it's really good. It's made really, really well. I just, I can't really fault anything that is there.
Right.
I think it's rather just I kind of hoped for more, but I think if it's working for you, if it's ticking all the boxes, if it's giving you the emotional wallop that you need, or then great. For me, it just felt a little bit. It lacked a kind of bombast, which I think I'm probably just used to seeing in movies about this topic, And I think if it had been just presented as, it's just a family drama set in 1960s Belfast, rather than, even mention like the backdrop of the Troubles, and if that had just been an element of their experience, then fair enough.
No, you don't get any torture sequences. You don't get any IRA. This is not a heavy duty examination of the violence surrounding the Troubles.
The great irony of it is that the quote unquote the violence or the threat of violence that they receive it's from their side. It's from people on their side.
Yes.
It's from other Protestants putting pressure on Jamie Dornan's character to join up with them and go fight the Catholics and to run them out of the neighborhood. They're not directly sort of clashing with the enemy or with the other side. It's with their own people, and I think that's kind of the real tragedy of their situation. So they're ultimately driven out of their community by their own people.
Yeah, and it really is a critique of tribalism too, because there's the one line that it's probably a little progressive for the time period, but Jamie Dornan says to to his son, the 9-year-old boy, when he says, you know, what if I forget the exact line, but something like, if I married a Catholic girl, and you know, how would you feel? And Jamie Dornan says, I don't care if she's an atheistic vegetarian, you know, if she's kind, I'll welcome her with open arms. It's something along those lines. I know I'm butchering the line, but this is something, I think another reason I resonated with this is just last week, I watched a news program where they had a specialist come on the histories of civil wars around the world. And not to detract from our review too much, but you know, a lot of people in America are feeling a civil war is coming in America. And this person's saying, don't think of civil war. When we talk about this happening in America, it's not going to be like Gettysburg, where two uniformed armies are going to get in a field and start shooting at each other like, you know, 150, 200 years ago. This is going to be more like Northern Ireland. People are going to feel uncomfortable in their communities as violence, intimidation happens. Oh, you're a red state. Oh, you're a blue state. You're a Republican. You're a Democrat. You're a this. You're that. You're a Christian. You're a Muslim. Whatever it is, people are going to feel, I'm not safe here anymore, and I'm going to have to go. And there's going to be this exodus, which is what we see in this film. And they're trying to rationalize, this is our home, this is our roots, this is our blood, this is our sweat, this is our tears, this is where our aunts, this is where our uncles, this is where our cousins are we going to really go to another place where even the wife says they're going to make fun of me because of my accent? And so to me, I think another reason I really like this movie is how relevant it is for Americans today. Are we going to put tribalism first? You know, whether I'm a Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Democrat, Republican, or are we going to put kindness? Is this person kind? Is this person generous? Is this person joyful? You know, are we going to, is that going to be our common denominators, or is it going to be these tags that we put on on ourselves? Because even Tammy was saying to me, was this really about Catholics and Protestants? And I said, no, honey, it wasn't a religious war at all. That was just the terms that they would use. It was really an ethno-nationalistic, you know, I guess it wouldn't be ethno because it's the same ethnicity. It was
right. It was nationalism. It was getting the Brits out.
It's getting the Brits out. That's what it was.
As ever, it's our fault, you know.
Yes.
Us taking over stuff, and then I mean, my very rudimentary understanding of the politics of it is you got Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, so it's governed by England, by the Queen, and then you've got Ireland itself. And they're both fighting over ownership of Northern Ireland. So you've got those two warring factions, but then you also have a third faction. You know, you've got the Northern Ireland population who don't want to be either. Right. They're like, no, we are Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is a separate country, even if it's governed by those guys over the Irish Channel. And we don't want to be your side, and we don't want to be your side. We want to be on our own. And I think that's the problem when you get in these kind of like tribalistic problems that the family faces here, is that they're given this ultimatum: you're either with us or you're against us. Yeah, and it's like, well no, that's not those aren't the only two solutions. And I think maybe I underestimated the allegorical side of this movie. Perhaps that is why it's resonating, particularly over in the US so much with people. It's not the story itself, but it's the mood, it's the sentiment, it's the heightened opinions, and just the overwhelming sense of discomfort within your own neighborhood. You know, whether that is your street or your state or your country.
Yes. It definitely has a meta narrative that is appealing. I can speak as an American. I was seeing some things. Have you been to Northern Ireland before?
I've not. I've been to the South, but I haven't been to Northern Ireland.
See, I'm the opposite. I've never been to the Republic, but I've been to Belfast, and I love the city. I absolutely love it. I got to go to. I went to the Peace Wall, and I got the tour, and I got told where. The tour guide was telling us, because we asked, you know, the Peace Wall's still here, and he goes, oh yeah, occasionally, you know, there's still beer bottles that are thrown over from one side to the other, and I go, oh really? And he goes, hey, it's not Molotov cocktails anymore, so we'll take what we I remember him saying
it's just an empty bottle.
It's just an empty bottle. We can live with that one. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, I do. I know. I never have. I've never even been to Dublin. I've only been to like the very sort of green fishing villages, countryside of the very, very south of Ireland.
Yeah,
just on family holidays as a kid. But
I do want to raise a couple other points with the movie that I loved, and one of it was Kenneth Branagh is a little older than I am, but he obviously enjoys the same things I did, because everything that he was watching on TV just made my heart sing. At one point, they're all sitting around watching Star Trek, and suddenly I remember being a little boy with my parents watching Star Trek, and then they're sitting around watching my favorite John Wayne movie, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. I thought, is Kenneth Branagh just going, what would Steve Hackman watch when he was and I'm thinking, wow, Kenneth Branagh really knows me. And then the final thing, they go to the cinema and they go to see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and I'm like, okay, this movie is reading my mail. And so this is why, I mean, take away the stunning performances. It was wonderfully shot. I thought the screenplay was fantastic. The performances, as we mentioned, but just the little things that bring joy to me were in this film.
And I would be remiss if I did not point out, who wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, right?
Ian Fleming.
I
knew that.
I've got a copy of it right
there. Viewers, you noticed that clever
next to my James Bond
subtle maneuver into James Bond land.
But I think you're absolutely right, because because this is, on the one hand, it is this sort of beautiful black and white, austere kind of period drama. You got to remember that ultimately this is Kenneth Branagh talking. So this is the story of a little boy who grows up to be a film director.
Yes.
And so as a kid, I mean, as every kid is, but particularly this child, he's completely obsessed with TV and movies and whatever. And so, he's doing this project on the space, on the moon landing, and he's watching Star Trek, and he's got little toys of like sort of spaceships and stuff, that I really liked. And they go see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And if I remember right, that's in color, right?
Yes.
When they watch Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, it's in color. And just the idea of that kind of interactive experience at the cinema where it goes over the edge, and yes, spoilers, it can fly, but you don't know. And the fact that the way they all go, whoa, back in their chairs, I really kind of appreciated his recognition of the power of cinema to delight and entertain and transport people away. And I think it's highlighted that's how they were escaping from the situation, but it proved insufficient. It just wasn't realistic. It wasn't enough to escape the very real, palpable threat on their doorstep, and try as they might to ignore it. And they could do that for a while through watching Star Trek and watching Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Yeah. Ultimately, they're like, no, we can't escape this any longer. Reality has thrown a brick through our window. We're going to have to. We're going to have to do something about it.
And the ending was so poignant. Even Tammy was mentioning to me the feeling of, Ciaran Hinds, the grandfather, passes away. The family leaves, and poor Judi Dench, the grandmother, is left alone. And there's that wonderful sequence of text at the end of the film where that this movie was made for those who left,
and those who stayed behind.
Those who stayed behind, and those, I think, who gave their lives. There was three, basically, and it tore families apart, it tore communities apart, and it really shows you what can happen when tribalism gets in and roots itself into a community, and you start creating the us versus them. Because, like I said, in Kenneth Branagh's interviews that I've seen with him, he said, I remember growing up on that street, and it was the Catholic, we were the Protestants, but it was Catholic, and nobody, we all got along, nobody cared. Nobody cared about that until suddenly somebody came in and told us we were supposed to care about it. And then, then the temperature keeps rising up and rising up. Fortunately, they didn't have Fox News, but
true, yeah. They had to rely on people kind of like coming and knocking on the back gate and going,
right.
You got to hate them. And obviously that's the problem today. It's just being beamed into your homes and onto your phones all the time, and presenting itself as fair and balanced, objective news coverage.
Yeah, one of the lines I loved: if there was only one right answer, there wouldn't be boys in this town trying to blow each other up.
Well, there you go.
Because I think at one point it's like, well, what's the answer? There's no one right answer. That's the problem with with this kind of sectarian violence is people think there is a way and there's no nuance and there's no diversity, no plurality.
Mm-hmm.
I did like also, as far as the camera work, I loved a lot of the 45-degree angles. We were getting really the view of a 9-year-old boy looking up a lot. It was constantly the perspective
was really good.
And even though it was black and white, there was different shades, and at times there was flickers of color. Like when it went to Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, there was color in the film. So color was used at those moments, almost like made me think of Pleasantville, where you have a black and white film, but then color is used to highlight different aspects. And but even within the black and white, there was shading. There was different shadings at different times. So I loved the use of black and white in this film.
Oh yeah, I mean it's incredibly sort of versatile. You think, okay, if I'm doing it in black and white, then I've lost all degree of visual nuance, and that's just not true at all.
No.
It takes an accomplished cinematographer, but this film definitely has that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it looks fantastic. What I come away with more than anything else is how good the film looked. Yeah, it really, really does look great.
I love the beginning too, how they're coming over modern Belfast.
Yes, and that's all in color, isn't it? With the
Yeah.
Docklands and everything.
Yes.
Yeah,
And you see 21st century Belfast, and then suddenly it becomes black and white, and we're transported back to 1969. So
sure. And I think that's why, in a way, I wouldn't be surprised to see Belfast do very well. You cannot sort of understate how sort of accomplished Branagh is as a filmmaker, and how long he's been around, how long he's been doing this.
Yeah.
He's been doing this since like the late 80s. Henry V was like 89, I think.
Henry V was his breakout. He won the Academy Award for that, didn't he? He
was nominated. He was nominated. Yeah. I don't think he's ever won one. I think he was nominated for that, and that was like his big coming out, if you like.
Yeah.
And that was right around the time I was getting into movies, and he was like the great British hope,
Yes.
at the time. And then obviously because he became synonymous with, everyone was calling him the next Olivier and all this because he kept doing Shakespeare adaptations. Yeah, I definitely remember going to see Much Ado About Nothing, and his Hamlet is epic. It's fantastic.
How many Hamlets have Charlton Heston in it?
Well, yeah, no. Oh, the cast in that's got Jack Lemmon in it.
It's incredible. Yes,
it's also, if you haven't seen that, definitely check it out. Kate Winslet as Ophelia.
It's funny how underappreciated at times, because that movie, you don't really hear much about it, and yet I love. In fact, even thinking about it, I think I got to rewatch that again soon, because that's an outstanding film.
It's another one of those ones that was, I think, very difficult to program and to market at the time, because it was the full unexpurgated text, for the first time. There was no cuts. It was every line. And so it was about 4 hours long.
I had it on VHS, and it was a double VHS.
I had that too.
Yes.
I remember I went to see it at the cinema, and it had an intermission because it was so long.
It was quite.
But it's great. I haven't seen it for a long time, but it is great. And then, but I think you have to remember, how adventurous he can be as a filmmaker. He directed Thor, the first Thor film, because I think they wanted to bring a Shakespearean element to that to help sell this ridiculous idea of Norse gods. He did Peter's Friends, Dead Again. His version of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein with Robert De Niro as the monster. I defend that movie.
That's underappreciated, and you totally made me remember Peter's Friends, which I remember watching in the 90s. And if we ever do a retrospective of, which I wanted to do, of 90s British films, Peter's Friends would have to be in there, because
oh yeah, no, it would have to be in there. Yeah, that was a big one.
Stephen Fry. I mean, young Stephen
Posh
Fry.
people swearing at each other for 2 hours. It was great. Yeah, because I was a big Stephen Fry fan. Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie had a sketch show on British TV at the time, and it was Can you imagine that? Stephen Fry now and Hugh Laurie, that people still know in the US know as House.
House, yes, yeah.
Back in the early 90s, they did a sketch show on BBC, and it was really funny.
Yeah,
a bit of Fry and Laurie.
A bit of Fry and Laurie, yeah.
It was great stuff.
I lived in Hong Kong at the time, so we,
it was
still British, and we always got the British. In fact, I got so much British TV in the 90s. That's what really acclimated me to. Yeah. So what do we say, out of Molotov cocktails, or something related to something related to the boy?
Oh, stolen boxes of laundry detergent.
Ah, yes. That's a good one.
And apparently that's true. I did see an interview with Branagh when he was talking about that, and that is something that he did. He found himself caught up in this looting of a supermarket, and he thought, what do we need?
Yeah.
So he grabbed some laundry powder.
I forgot if it was specifically that, but Tammy actually said a couple times in this movie, that detail is something from his life. Like that is just the kind of thing you put in the film that you think, oh, and I think it might have been the laundry detergent, because that is such a specific thing you wouldn't normally in a looting situation run off with the laundry detergent unless you're a 9-year-old boy remembering to do that or something like that. And the response of mom was just priceless. In the midst of this riot, I'm bringing my kid back there. You put that.
Well, that's it. The looting is still going on.
The guy's going, no, you're supposed to take things away, not put them back. You're putting them back.
Oh yeah, brilliant. Classic mum.
Yeah. So
for sure.
James, I'm going to go first this time.
Please.
Because I've already tipped my hand. I'm going to give this 5 laundry detergent boxes out of 5. This movie totally did it for me. I enjoyed it from start to finish. Kenneth Branagh has, again, really rose to the challenge. I think he's going to deserve every award he's going to get with this film. And I thoroughly encourage people to go see it as soon as possible.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, if you're saying it's your favorite film of the year, then yeah, can't say anything. I mean, like I said, I really liked sort of everything about it, and I just felt that in some aspects it kind of just came up a little bit short for me. But I'm perfectly happy to concede that it's me, not him. You know, it's my problem, not the film's problem. I'm going to give it 4 boxes of stolen laundry detergent out of 5, and I'm perfectly happy to do that, even with the caveats that I've talked about.
Fair enough. That gives us a combined score of 4.5, which is more than enough to recommend this wholeheartedly to all of our listeners and watchers. So thanks, everybody. We hope you've enjoyed our review of Belfast. Remember to leave a comment in the box below. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. And we'll see you back here next week. James?
See you next time. Goodbye.
Cheers, everybody.